Sometimes you see stuff, and you see it one way, it's really not, it's something else, but you see it because of the angle you looking at it. Your frame of mind, what you've been told about somebody. Y'all stay with me. We got to lay aside these weights because they'll lead us into sin. He said, and the sin. He said, it easily besets. That word beset gives the idea that it's going to overwhelm you, overpower you. Y'all listening? It'll crush you, entangle you, trap you, snare you, and what else? It's just like a noose around your neck. If you're going around heavy-hearted and burdened, why? Why should you be burdened? And Jesus have come to set you free. And if the Son of Man has set you free, you are free indeed. You need to loose your mind from some things. You're over-concerned about some things. And that'll lead you into doing all kinds of, I see people all the time. They're resorting to crookedness because they don't have enough to make the bills. So now they're going to their loved ones that have the food stamps or have the card or whatever. And they give them a certain amount of money and they go let them buy twice as many groceries. Because you have pressure on you. And you become have anxiety because now they're coming to take some of yours. And now you're feeling all depressed. And you get depressed over things. Oh, help me. But he says, these things will easily beset you. He said, let us run. Tell somebody we're in a race. And you have to run race. You don't walk in a race. You don't trot, you run. So you have to ease your burden. Some of us read, again, 90% of people's problems are financial. They have a root in finances. Because we don't have enough finances to keep up with our stuff. Okay? He says in the 2nd verse, read it.
Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith.
No. Stop looking at the things that have you heavy-hearted. You should be looking unto Jesus. See, we have our eyes on our situation and our circumstances and our condition, and we keep looking at the trouble we're in. But you need to look and keep your eye upon Jesus. That's not a cliche. If he is the answer, and if God is all powerful and all knowing, we need to put our trust in him. But what the problem is, we keep looking at our condition. We're focusing upon our circumstance. And the circumstance and the condition is negative. But he said you need to keep looking to the author and the finisher of your faith. He's the one who created your faith. Oh, look down there what I have down there. The beginner, the person behind, the first mover or creator of your faith. Before you believe anything and trusted anything about God, Jesus authored that in you. He was the first one that moved in you for you to believe. See, no man can come to the Father unless the Father first draw him. See, you can't have faith until God gives you the measure of faith. Yep, the Holy Ghost. So the Bible letting us know Jesus is the author and finisher of the faith, of our faith. Who what?
Who for the joy that was set before him.
Well, wait a minute, I gotta stop you. Somebody said for the joy.
For the joy.
See, this joy was set before him. See, Jesus had to look past the cross. Y'all should have been shouting right there. If he just looked at the cross, he wouldn't have joy. But if he can look past the cross, he'd see that everybody that was lost had a chance to be saved. So he looks past the cross, the suffering. He looked past having to go into hell for 3 days. The Bible said while he was in the grave, 3 days and nights, he was in hell preaching to spirits that were in prison. And he looked past that and had to look past the cross and the whipping and the spearing in the side. The crown of thorns, he had to look past that to see himself sitting on the right hand of the Father. See, you need to see yourself at the end, not in the middle. See, all of this stuff we're going through down here doesn't mean anything. Why don't you look on the end of this thing? Because at the end of this thing, we're going to be in heaven. He said, I'm going to prepare a place for you. Where I am, you will be also. You need to look past your situation. So, Pastor, I'm laid off. You don't understand. I've been laid off. I know what it feels like to be laid off. My unemployment wasn't 340. It was 40. $40 a week. Stay with me, Holy Ghost. People quick to tell you what you don't understand. Been there, done it, got a t-shirt. My thing is, he says, for the joy that was set before him, he did what?
Endured the cross.
He put up with the intensity, punishment, torture of the cross. Because he was looking past that. It was a joy set before him. God has given us so many promises. See, you need to know what the promises are. He's promised you not only life, eternal in the next life, but abundant living in this life. Amen. Read what he says.
Despising the shame.
Now, you're going to have to learn how to despise shame. Look down there what I wrote. You're going to have to disregard embarrassments. Disregard them because you got embarrassed. Somebody embarrassed you. Disregard the embarrassment. Just disregard it. Don't let it bother you that somebody embarrassed, somebody loud talked to you, somebody did something to humiliate you in public. Jesus was hung on the cross naked. He disregarded or despised that shame. That's what he's talking about. Am I here by myself? We have a great cloud of witnesses that's watching, that have gone through this, that, and the other. Here we are falling out because of trifles, trivia, stuff that don't add up to be a human being. And the Bible says he despising the shame. What Jesus did was disregard that I'm up here naked. Because I'm looking past that. And I'm looking at the joy that's been set before me, because once I go through this shame and this humiliation and being betrayed and everybody stopped walking with me, because everybody stopped walking with it and left him alone. Don't you worry about it when folks stop walking with you, because they stop walking with Jesus, they're going to stop walking with you. Stop being a needy person that needs friends. You don't need but one friend, that's Jesus. And what a friend we have in Jesus. Stop trying to make people stop trying to be likable. Wait a minute, if you're a nice person and doing all the good you can, they still not going to like you. Because Jesus, the Bible said, did no wrong. And he was despised and rejected. And we talk about, brother, I just shouldn't have to go through that. Yes, you should go through that. Here we are. Tell somebody to get rid of it. You need to get rid of this stuff that's weighing you down. Because they don't like you. You got to get amen. I'll never get through. He says in the word, read.
And is set down at the right hand of the throne of God.
If I know I'm going to sit down on the right hand of God with all power in heaven and earth given unto me in a name that's above every name, forget that cross. I'm not thinking about the cross. I'm going to have a name that when they call my name, demons tremble. You need to get excited about your position in God. Jesus said, I'm going to look at the joy that's set before me. I have too much to lose if I give up now. He was in the garden and said, Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. He said, but not my will, but your will be done. Because he's looking at the joy. Because see, he had to look past the cross and past the whipping. They scourged him. Can I talk about that for a minute? When they whipped him, every time that cat of nine tails hit his flesh and they brought it back, they pulled flesh out of his body. And Isaiah, 800 years before that, said, there is no beauty in him that we should desire him. They whipped him so he did not even have a countenance, a facial expression that you could even recognize. That's why even Mary, when she came at the tomb that morning, and he was standing, and she didn't recognize him. He'd been beaten. The Bible says stricken with rods on his head. Didn't even look himself. But it wasn't until he said Mary. She heard his voice. She said, my Lord